Additional experiments can expand on this early feedback and learning. For example, if the growth model requires that a certain percentage of participants share their experiences with colleagues and encourage their participation, the degree to which that takes place can be tested even with a small sample of people. If 10 people complete the first experiment, how many do we expect to volunteer again? If they are asked to recruit a colleagues, how many do we expect will do so? Remember that there are supposed to be that the kind of early adopters with the most to gain from the program. Put another way, what if all then early adopters decline to volunteer again? That would be a highly significant and very negative result. If the numbers would surge, early experiments don't look promising, there is clearly a problem with the strategy. That doesn't mean it's time to give up. On the contrary, it means it's time to get some immediate qualitative feedback about how to improve the program. Here's where this kind of experimentation has an advantage over traditional market research. We don't have to commission a survey to find new people to interview. We already have a cohort of people to talk to, as well as knowledge about their actual behavior. The participants in the initial experiment. This entire experiment could be conducted in a matter of weeks, less than one tenth the time of the traditional strategic planning process. Also, it can happen in parallel with the strategic planning while the plan is still being formulated. Even when experiment produce a negative result, those failures prove instructive and can influence the strategy. For example, what if no volunteer can be found who are experiencing the conflict of values within the organization that are such an important assumptions in the business plan? If so, congratulations, it's time to pivot, a concept that is explored in more detail in chapter 8. An experiment is a product. In the lean startup model, an experiment is more than just a theoretical inquiry. It is also first product. If this or any other experiment is successful, it allow the manager to get started with his or her campaign in enlisting early adopters, adding employees to each further experiments or iteration, or eventually starting to build a product. By the time that product is ready to be distributed widely, it will already have established customer. It will have solved real problems and offer detailed specification for what needs to be built. Unlike a traditional strategic planning or market research process, this specification will be rooted in feedback on what is working today rather than in anticipation of what might work tomorrow. To see this is in action, consider an example from Kodak. Kodak history is bound up with cameras and films, but today is also operates a substantial online business called Kodak Gallery. Mark Cook is Kodak Gallery Vice President of Product, and he is working to change Kodak Gallery culture of development to embrace experimentation. Mark explained traditionally the product manager was the product manager says, I just want this. In response, the engineer say, I'm going to build it. Instead, I try to push my team to first answer four questions. Number one, do consumer recognize that they have the problem you are trying to solve? Number two, if there was a solution, would they buy it? Number three, would they buy it from us? Number four, can we build a solution for that problem? The common tendency of product development is to skip straight to the fourth question and build a solution before confirming that customers have the problem. For example, Kodak Gallery offer wedding cards with gilded text and graphics on its side. Those designs were popular with customers who were getting married, and so the team redesigned the cards to be used at another special occasion, such as For holidays, the market research and design process indicated that customers would like the new cars, and that finding justified the significant efforts that went into creating them. Day, Days before the launch, the team realized the cars were too difficult to understand from their depiction on the website. People couldn't see how beautiful they were. They were also hard to produce. Cook realized that they had done the work backward. He explained, until we could figure out how to sell and make the product, it wasn't worth spending any engineering time on. Learning from that experience, Cook took an different approach when he led his team through the development of a new set of features for a product that makes it easier to share photos taken at an event. They believed that an online event album would provide a way for people who attend a wedding, a conference, or another gathering to share photos with other attendees. Unlike other online photo sharing service, Kodak Gallery event album would have a strong privacy control, assuring that the photos would be shared only with the people who attend the same event. In a break with the past, Cook lead the group through a process of identifying risks and assumptions before building anything, and then testing those assumptions experimentally. These were two main hypotheses underlying the proposed event album. Number one, the team assumed that customers would want to create the album in the first place. Number two, it assumes that events participants would upload photos to event album created by friends or colleagues. The Kodak Gallery team built a simple prototype of the event album. It lacked many features, so many in fact that the team was reluctant to show it to customer. However, even at the early stage, allowing customer to use the prototype helped the team refute their hypothesis. First, creating the album was not an easy as as the team had predicted, none of the early customers were able to create one. Further, customers complained that the early product versions lacked essential features. Those negative results demoralized the team. The usability problem frustrated them, as did customer complaints about missing features, many of which matched the original roadmap. Cook explains that even though the product was missing features, the project was not a failure. The initial product flaw and all confirmed that users did have the desire to create event albums, which was extremely valuable information. Where customers complain about missing features, this suggested that the team was on the right track. The team now had early evidence that those features were in fact important. What about features that were on the roadmap, but the customer, which was extremely information which was extremely valuable information, where the customer complained about missing feature. This suggested that the team was on the right track. The team now had early evidence that those features were in fact important. What about features that were on the roadmap but that customers didn't complain about? Maybe those features weren't as important as they initially seemed. Through a beta launch, the team continued to learn and iterate. While the early users were enthusiastic and the number were promising, the team made a major discovery through the use of online surveying tool Kits Insight. The team learned that many customers wanted to be able to arrange the order of picture before they could invite others to contribute. Knowing they weren't ready to launch, Cook held off his division general manager by explaining how iterating and experimenting before beginning the market campaign would yield far better results. In a world where marketing launch dates were often set months in advance, waiting until the team had really solved the problem was a break from the past. This process represented a dramatic change for Kodak Gallery. Employees were used to being measured on their progress at completing tasks. As Cook say, success is not delivering a feature, success is learning how to solve the customer problem. The village laundry service. In India, due to the cost of a washing machine, less than 7% of the population have one in their homes. Most people either hand wash their clothing at home or pay a dhobi to do it for them. Dhobis take the clothes to the nearest river, wash them in the river water, bank them again rocks to get them clean, and hang them to dry, which takes 2 to 7 days. The result clothes are returned in about 10 days and are probably not that clean. Akshay Mehra had been working at Protector and Gamble Singapore for 8 years when he sensed an opportunity as a brand manager of the Tide and Pantene brand for India and Asian countries. He thought he could make laundry service available to people who previously could not afford them. Returning to India, Akshay joined the village laundry service created by Innosight Ventures. VLS began a series of experiments to test its business assumption. For their first experiment, VLS mounted a consumer grade laundry machine on the back of a pickup truck pick on a street corner in Bangalore. The experiment cost less than $8,000 and had the simple goal of proving that people would hand over their laundry and pay to have it clean. The entrepreneur did not clean the laundry on the truck, which was more for marketing and show, but took it offsite to be clean and brought it back to their customer. By the end of the day, the VLS team continued the experiment for a week, parking the truck on different street corners, digging deeper to discover all they could about their potential customer. They wanted to know how they could encourage people to come to the truck. Did cleaning speed matter? Was cleaners a concern? That were people asking for when they left their laundry with them. They discovered that customers were happy to give them their laundry to clean. However, those customers were suspicious of the washing machine mounted on the back of the truck, concerned that VLS would take their laundry and run. To address that concern, VLS created a slightly more substantial mobile cart that looked more like a kiosk. VLS also experimented with parking the cars in front of a local mini-mart chain. Further iteration helped VLS figure out which service people were most interested in and what price they were willing to pay. They discovered that customers often wanted their clothes ironed and were willing to pay double the price to get their laundry back in 4 hours rather than 24 hours. As a result of those early experiments, VLS created an end product that was a 3 foot by 4 foot mobile kiosk that include an energy efficient consumer grade washing machine, a dry and an extra long extension cord. That kiosk used Western detergents and was supplied daily with fresh clean water delivered by VLS. Since then, the village laundry service has grown substantially with 14 locations operational in Bangalore, Mysore, and Mumbai. As CEO Akshay Mehra shared with me, we have serviced 1,016 116,000 kgs in 2010 versus 30,600 kgs in 2009, and almost 60% of the business is coming from repeat customer. We have serviced more than 10,000 customers in the past year alone across all the outlets. A clean startup in garment, a lean startup in garment. On July 21, 2010, President Obama signed the Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform and Consumer Protection Act into law. One of its landmark provision created a new federal agency, the Consumer Federal Protection CFBPP. This agency is tasked with protecting American citizens from predatory lending by financial service companies such as credit card companies, student lenders, and payday loan offices. The plan calls for it to accomplish this by setting up a call center where trained workers will field call directly from the public. Left to left to its own devices, a new government agency would probably hire a large staff with a large budget to develop a plan that is expensive and time consuming. However, the CFPB is considering doing things differently despite its 500 million budget and high profile origin. The CPFB is really a startup. President Obama tasked his chief technology officer, Anish Chopra, with collecting ideas for how to set up the new startup agency, and that is how I came to be involved on one of the Chopra's visit to Silicon Valley. He invited a number of entrepreneurs to make suggestions for ways to cultivate a startup mentality in the new agency. In particular, his focus was on leveraging technology and innovation to make the agency more efficient, cost effective, and true. My suggestion was drawn straight from the principles of this chapter. Treat the CFPB as an experiment, identify the elements of the plan that are assumptions rather than facts, and figure out ways to test them. Using these insights, we could build a minimum viable product and have the agency up and running on a micro scale long before the official plan was set in motion. The number one assumption underlying the current plan is that once Americans know they can call the CFPB for help with financial fraud and abuse, there will be a significant volume of citizens who do that. This sounds reasonable as it is based on market research about the amount of fraud that affect Americans each year. However, despite all that research, it is essential an assumption if the actual call volume differs markedly from that in the plan, it will require significant revision. What if Americans who are subjected to financial abuse don't view themselves as victims and therefore don't seek help? What if they have very different notions of what problems are important? What if they call the agency seek helping for problem? They are outside in purview. Once the agency is up and running with a $500 million budget and a correspondingly large staff, altering the plan will be expensive and time consuming, but they wait to get feedback to start experimenting immediately. The agency could start with the creation of a simple hotline numbers using one of the new breed of low-cost and fast startup platform such as Twilio. With a few hours work, they could add simple voice prompt offering callers a menu of financial problem to choose from. In the first version, the prompt could be drawn straight from the existing research instead of a cross caseworker on the line. Each firm could offer the caller useful information about how to solve her or his problem. Instead of marketing this hotline to the whole country, the agency could run the experiment in much more limited ways. Start with a small geographic area, perhaps as small as a few city blocks, then instead of paying for expensive television or radio advertising to let people know about the service, use highly targeted advertising flyers on billboards, newspaper advertisement to those blogs, or specially targeted online ads would be a good start. Since the target area is so small, they could afford to pay a premium to create a high level of awareness in the target zone. The total cost would remain quite small.